Hey, what's going on, good people? It's been a couple weeks, man, since y'all see me on here, but I have been busy for the last couple weeks. I have been busy. But first, let me handle house business. If it's your first time here, share, subscribe, comment. You already see the title of the video, so you already know what I'm going to go in about. Um, if it's your first time here, it's called real rap for a reason. We get right to it. This isn't a place to come with your emotions. You got emotions, go over that way. We only deal with logic. We deal with the facts. And we gotta try to keep things as fair as possible. You know what I mean? In an unfair world. You know what I mean? But once again, we're gonna walk down to the corner with this conversation. It's still corner talk. We're gonna get to this conversation. But to get back on to what your boy has been up to for the past, my fault, it's a gnat or something. I finally killed him. He kept annoying me. Um, last couple of weeks I've been on the podcast. I've been a guest feature on the podcast. You can catch this podcast on YouTube, Facebook. I think it has a URL website, but I'm gonna put the URL in the description box where you can find it. It's called the Don Miller Podcast, but you find it by finding the Don Miller Show. Once again, I'm gonna put that in the description box. We're 2 episodes in. We have another episode coming up this Thursday. I'm not the orator of this one, so I'm kind of, waiting for the topics to come through, so I know what I gotta study on or speak on, or have an opinion on, however you want to word it, right? But as we all know, let's get into it. As we all know, Donald Trump, Mar-a-Lago resort, house, whatever they want to call it, it was raided by the FBI last Monday or Tuesday, so about a week ago, roughly, right? They were in search from what the probable cause search warrant suggests. They were in search of classified information that was supposed to be, which he supposed to have had in his possession, being stored at that residence, right? Now, to my understanding, the FBI has been on and on, off again conversations. My fault, I'm lying. It's continuous conversations with Donald Trump about the possession of such held classified information, right? In June of this year, they were handed over something in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 boxes or something that held classified information. They were told that's all the information they had in this possession. Here you go. We're done. We have nothing else to discuss on this matter. What's believed to have happened was there is someone internally in Donald Trump's inner circle or internal staff. I'm going to say internal staff before I say inner circle. Inner circle means something totally different. So I'm going to say inner staff, who supposed to had been a CI for all intents and purposes, right? I mean, there's no other way. You turned informant, right? And told the FBI, the DOJ, that the residence contained additional classified information that Donald Trump was lying about. When they handed over the original documentation, one of his lawyers also signed documents stating that this is all the classified information that they had in their possession that they was handing over. So once again, sometime later after that, an informant notified the FBI, DOJ, otherwise, right, that no, he does have additional files held up in a residence in Mar-a-Lago. My apologies, that was a call I had to ignore real quick. So, with an on again, off again banner or a continuous banner going back and forth, to my understanding, what came to pass was the FBI, the Department of Justice, That's what the FBI is a part of. So I'm just going to start saying the Department of Justice. The DOJ feel as though that they had exhausted all means to retrieve such said information, documentation, which created or motivated the reasoning for the search warrant, right? And that's one thing about a search warrant. Y'all got to understand the law, whether it's a wiretap or what have you, right? There has to be a certain level of probable cause met, right? One of those probable causes is the main one is that you have exhausted all avenues to advance this investigation, right? You got enough here that says a further investigation is warranted, and you're meeting roadblocks. Whatever said roadblocks you're meeting, these are the next measures, the next steps. And typically, like I said, that's what tapping someone's phone, that's what search warrants, that's all those things really under the same umbrella. So once you've exhausted all the previous avenues, or previous means, normal means rather, because I think that's actually the terminology, is normal means. The escalator is search warrant, the escalator is wiretaps, right? The DOJ has documentation showing the communication from them to Donald Trump and his representatives to try to get this documentation retrieved. The complete set, not what you want to give. It's everything that's in your possession that you're not supposed to have, right? Now, he could take declassified documents with him, right? Documents that he personally declassified while he was in office. He can take that with him. That's perfectly legal. Anything that was not declassified, that still had a classification, that still has a serial number, an active serial number. I'm going to tell you how this works, right? Because I know some of y'all don't understand. It's like, oh, it's just doc. No. Because one, you got to realize the nature of the sensitivity, rather, of what the President of the United States have, right? Then you also got to take into account someone as unstable as Donald Trump, not knowing what he has in his possession, right? So anytime something is classified, it's classified because it could potentially be a threat to national security. It could be adverse information that your adversaries could use against you. It's a reason for the classification. There are steps, and there are steps or procedures to classifying a document. You just can't come out and say, I'm going to classify a document. There has to be justifiable reasoning, and typically that reason is that it's harmful information that, if exposed or revealed to the public, it could be harmful to the nation, to the government, whoever, to allies, whatever, right? So when you have an attorney general such as Merrick Garland, who he made a couple statements that stood out to me. He made a couple statements during his press conference. One of the statements, he said that there's a faithful adherence to the rule of law. There's a faithful adherence that the rule of law is the bedrock of democracy in our country, right? That's to me, that's pretty heavy, right? He also said, upholding the rule of law means applying the law evenly, without fear and without favor. So with that said, to me, right, listen, upholding the rule of law means applying the law without fear or favor. But even in this case, I believe that they still apply the law with fear and with favor. Well, this process, I'm going to say, right? Because I personally don't see what happened to people that mismanages classified information. It doesn't matter what it is. It's the facts of there's procedure and guidelines to handling classified information, and no one is exempt. The part I think people are missing about Donald Trump is that this is a man that still feel like the laws and rules don't apply to him. I think that's the biggest part that's missing. It's almost made it sound like it's being made to seem that it's some kind of personal vendetta people may have, and they're coming after him. If he would have gave up the documentation, and then they would have, if he had gave everything he had in his possession that he didn't have, he lied about it, and he tried to stash it in his resort. I'm missing the part where the DOJ is culpable with an overreaching viewpoint, where people say they're overreaching, they're abusing power. This is the same DOJ that Donald Trump tried to use to abuse the election. Are we bugging? Or are we forgetting these? I'm confused, man. Maybe this is what I'm confused about. Right? This has nothing to do with his policies, because I'm one of them people that believes that Donald Trump has some halfway decent policies. From a policy standpoint, he's probably been one of the better presidents in recent history, just being honest, from a policy standpoint, right? Now, from an arrogant and brash and, like I said, just move with the laws and rules don't apply to me standpoint, he's probably one of the worst ever, right? And I think this was a clear case of, this right here is a clear example of someone that believes the rules do not apply to them. Donald Trump tried to use the DOJ to overturn an election. Have we forgotten that? Donald Trump is the one that pretty much forced William Barr to resign, the previous Attorney General before Merrick Garland, to resign because he wouldn't do anything illegal. So we got to pick a side and stay on it, right? We got to pick a side and stay on it. You can't conveniently say when the government, when the DOJ is doing something wrong by doing something right, right? What I mean by that is if they followed the letter of the law, which I believe, that's the reason why I believe they have, because Donald Trump ain't no regular dude, right? You know, people like me, they don't falsify search warrants. They don't falsify probable cause warrants. Like they don't did all of that, right? But with somebody like Donald Trump, when you get on that level, you're going to make sure them I's are dotted, them T's are crossed, because you know the backlash that's going to come from it. You know how it's going to be viewed through the public eyes as a witch hunt. Well, you already know what's coming with that. That's why it's probably the first time in history that the Attorney General said, with the permission of Donald Trump and his representatives, I want to release the search warrant. So you can see the write-up, so you can see what we was going after, right? Now, one thing they're not going to release is the affidavit. The affidavit is going to go way more deeper. But the affidavit, if y'all understand what an affidavit is going to go way more deeper with the scope of the investigation. All this is tied into one. I'm telling y'all what's coming down the pipe. And I said this when I was talking about Young Thug and YSL in the investigation that the Atlanta DA is pursuing, right? There is a bigger play here in the state of Georgia dealing with Donald Trump. There's a much bigger play. All this is tied into one thing. I promise you, all this is tied into one thing. This is, like I said, Donald Trump tried to use the DOJ to illegally overturn an election. I was told as a young boy, the same things that make you laugh will make you cry. This ain't nothing but a classic case of karma. I'm sorry, I can't have compassion and sympathy or empathy for somebody that really made their bed. He went out his way to make this bed. Y'all gotta look at things from a holistic scope, and not just the scope of, oh, this isn't an isolated incident. This is not isolated. All this goes into, one thing feeds into the next and feeds into the next, right? Even down to the judge that signed the warrant. It's a South Florida judge that signed the warrant. right? His name is Bruce Reinhardt. Sorry, I had to go over to make sure I got his name right. His name is Bruce Reinhardt, and Bruce Reinhardt's path is very, very interesting, right? Very, very, very interesting. He was an Obama supporter in this 2008 campaign, I believe it was. He donated a total of $4,000 to his campaign. On two occasions, he donated $2,000 on two occasions, right? He was an Epstein friend, which we know Donald Trump was an Epstein friend. He sorry, it's a bike. It's a bike. He was a John Lewis hero. For some of y'all don't know what John Lewis is, I believe he's out of Maryland. He's passed away since then. He held John Lewis in such high regard, right? He once referred about Donald Trump by saying that Donald Trump doesn't have the moral stature to kiss the feet of John Lewis, to kiss his shoes or boots or something like that, right? And if you know anything about John Lewis, then you know that he was a very, very respected person, politician, very respected, highly revered. But only thing I see that when somebody bring up the judge part to me is that I believe he's too close to the situation. Reason because he's an Epstein friend. To me, he already has a negative connotation towards Donald Trump. So that could be viewed as being biased, right? Which anybody decent knows that someone could claim conflict of interest, right? And they would have a substantial argument with that because of the ties, the closeness, and previous statements made, right? But with him sticking his neck out there and signing that search warrant, that makes me believe even further that there was enough there to do it without, and it would stand up through the test of time. It will stand up when all the facts and information is revealed of what's going on, right? That just furthers that point to me. That doesn't take away that point, it furthers that point, because that's going to enhance the level of scrutiny, right? But you know, the amount of people that was on that warrant, that was involved with that warrant, you know, there was some heavy names involved with that warrant. There was a lot of people who I feel like they don't want to put their careers on the line without justification, right? But with that, like I said, that you know, they looking for classified information. They saying he violated the Espionage Act. He violated another statute, federal statute, that says people willfully holding unlawfully classified information. That's a whole nother. It's like 3 different laws they saying that Donald Trump actually violated and broke. But I just want people to be careful, and I'm taking my time thinking this. I want to be clear and concise, and I always try to be as unbiased as possible, right? And what the facts state, what the facts outline is, we witnessed somebody in office who abused their power, but that's his personality, right? He was like that in his own business, personal life. He took those same business principles and practices and applied it to the presidency, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because because America ain't nothing but a corporation anyway, right? So when you got somebody who has that level of corporate experience, running corporations rather, experience, right? That could be a good thing if used properly. But those bullying tactics, those demeaning tactics. A person coming out saying that they have more war experience and more of a war expert than 4-star generals and 4-star admirals. And man, what are you talking about, man? These guys been doing this for 35 years. That's all they've done. War Street. You haven't. So it's like you see the level of arrogance and ego that this guy has, man. And that just further hits home at the point of someone that believes I can do what I want to do with no repercussions, right? Now, whether or not that ends up him going to prison, I don't think he will ever see the inside of a federal jail. I don't think that. I'd be lying if I said that. I think it's really a case of they're really trying to block paths. It's two things. They're trying to block paths for him to pursue another presidency office election, and the second one is to try him in court of public opinion. Right? It's a two-part war, right? One of them things of, okay, we got enough here to indict you. There's enough here to convict. Say you don't run for office and all this, we good. Because then we got to burn you, right? And you know, I see the correlation to Watergate with Nixon. You know, I see the correlation with Watergate and Nixon. You know, Nixon's, to say which one is more harsh, which one was worse. I said before, because I had these conversations all the time. So I said before, without a doubt, Nixon. I really can't say that because I got a blind spot. The blind spot is I don't know what documentation he had in his possession. And more importantly, if he had something that serious, what was he intending to do with it? You gotta think from a rational standpoint. You know what I mean? They don't have that luxury to think with emotion. They don't have that. They gotta think rationally. They gotta think systematically. Because like I said, once again, they dealing with somebody on that level that has to be a systematic approach of that has to make sense. Right? So once again, I'm pretty sure that was part of the probable cause package. Because he could have anything from a code to a safe to nuclear launch codes or old nuclear launch codes. Or he could have schematics for nuclear weapons or military positioning, asset positioning. You know what I mean? Like it's no telling what he could possibly have in his possession because he sees everything. You know what I'm saying? Only thing I think he really don't have that level of high engagement is like black ops missions and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like black ops, like with their strategy and with their, because it's kind of different. You know what I'm saying? Some things he got a green light, but some things are done because he can have plausible deniability. This is a game, y'all. Y'all gotta understand. This game is way deeper than what y'all see. So that's why I'm a firm believer that probable cause, it had to be crazy. It had to be crazy, right? Now, I believe firmly that this is tied to what's going on in the state of Georgia, right? Y'all know the state of Georgia, but several states. States that come to the top of my mind: Georgia, Texas, Pennsylvania. I want to say Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan. You know, that was one of the battleground states that Donald Trump refuted that he lost and was trying to get ballots thrown out. Now tell me, when in the history of this country have you seen that? On a presidential election, the president is trying to get ballots thrown out. I'll wait. One of the worst states he attacked was the state of Georgia. He attacked probably Georgia and Pennsylvania, right? The, like recollecting, that's probably the states I can remember that he attacked the most. From the attorney general all the way down to the mayors of those cities that he was attacking, right? I don't know if y'all recently aware, but Rudy Giuliani has been subpoenaed to testify in the state of Georgia at a special purpose grand jury because he played an integral role with trying to overthrow the election. He became the speaker of Donald Trump. He led the charge publicly with stating voting machines were rigged, voting machines were broke, votes were changed, votes were thrown out that people voted for Donald Trump. Votes were thrown out. I'm probably forgetting a bunch of stuff that he said, right? But he was one of the leaders of the campaign that attempted to undermine the electoral college process, right? With certification of the state election results. So he's being actually subpoenaed. He's been subpoenaed. This is like the second or third time he's been I want to say the state of Georgia. I want to say this like the second time. I think he got subpoenaed. I think the first one was in Atlanta. He was asked to go to Atlanta for a grand jury hearing because he had attacked Fulton County, right? And to my understanding, he was super condescending. He was uncooperative. It just wasn't a good hearing, right? But some of the charges that he's looking at facing is potential solicitation, election fraud, making a false statements to local state governmental bodies, conspiracy, racketeering, violation of oath of office, any involvement in violence or threats against election administration. This is what Donald Trump, as well as Rudy Giuliani, is being looked at for state charges in the state of Georgia. These are some of the charges. I'm pretty sure I don't have a list of all the charges, but that's some of the charges. And y'all can say what y'all want. Some of them things we already know he's guilty of because we've seen it play out on TV. You know what I'm saying? We've seen him say these things, right? We've seen the memos flying back and forth. If you pay attention to this, you read memos that came from him to whoever that made some of these statements, right? Accusing some of these governmental bodies of violating, with committing election fraud or being complicit in election fraud, right? That this investigation has really ramped up over the last year. It's no coincidence. You got to think about it, because what happens next year? People hit the campaign trail next year. We that close already to another election. We're about 14, 15 months out. Pay attention. Like I said from the beginning, a lot of this stuff is being done either to block him from running again, or to dehumanize him so much in the court of public opinion that nobody will vote for him. But that part is going to backfire. If it's left up to the vote of public opinion, that's not going to work. I think if that was part of the tactic, then that has backfired tremendously, because I believe Donald Trump has got a lot more empathizers since he left office. But along with Rudy Giuliani, some of Trump's other closest allies have been also subpoenaed. The senator from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham, has been subpoenaed. He was another person who was out there. If there was a right-hand man for the campaign for election fraud in Donald Trump's favor, it was Rudy Giuliani, and Lindsey Graham led the charge, right? And other close allies of him, like you had another, which people have to understand and look at. You had another close ally, a Trump supporter. I don't know how close of an ally he is, but another Trump supporter by the name of Jeffrey Clark. Let me tell you who Jeffrey Clark is if you're not familiar. But this is going to begin to make sense. I tell people, you gotta look at, your brain has to operate in a 360-degree view, and with only 3 degrees of separation between each interval to fully understand sometimes the scope of what's going on. And I know I probably just made that sound super complicated, but rewind that, slow it way down, and listen to what I just said. Jeffrey Clark was an employee, is an employee. I don't know if he's still there, but he was an employee of the Department of Justice. When William Barr resigned from the Department of Justice as Attorney General, Jeffrey Clark was going to be appointed acting Attorney General. Let me tell you why Jeffrey Clark was going to be appointed acting Attorney General. Jeffrey Clark was a staunch Trump supporter who also pushed the election fraud agenda, right? Jeffrey Clark drafted a memo to the Attorney General of Georgia and other top officials in the state of Georgia, pretty much saying that the Department of Justice has received valuable information of rampant election fraud in the state of Georgia. So he was going to push that. If he became acting Attorney General, he was going to push whatever Donald Trump said, push on his forefront. Just the facts, right? Oh, my fault. He didn't say election fraud. The way he worded it was election irregularities, right? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? He's saying that they found irregularities that not only impacted Georgia but several of the states as well, and that further investigation was needed. But when Trump had thoughts of putting him as the acting Attorney General, a lot of top DOJ officials said they were resigning immediately. That's the only thing that stopped that. So it's no telling how far that this has gone or would have gone. They're also looking at and what also happened was that, man, there was so much with this foolishness, man. It's so much. It's so much. Like, Donald Trump also had Republicans that went out and proposed themselves as Republican electors or some nonsense, like, and all of them are now looking at criminal charges. It's like 15 or 16 of them. But if you pay attention to what's happening around Trump and his allies, or whoever sympathized with him to help push their agenda, they tightening that circle, right? I don't want to use the other term because that's super derogatory, and I don't really like that term. But they're tightening the lines because you already had a couple people that broke, right? So we just seen last week somebody broke. We've seen the results of that breaking because they was able to obtain a search warrant saying that those records were on the premises. Not only was those records on the premises, they went to the exact office or room rather, where those documents were stored. They was only in there like 3 or 4 hours. You know how big that place is? So that means their intelligence had to be on point to a T. They went to the exact room where it was housed at, and they went straight to the safe. They ain't had to look for the safe. They went straight to the safe, right? So in any conspiracy, when this is a conspiracy on this level that involves this number of people, how many of these people going to stand tall? How many people are going to stand tall? Now, I mean, that gotta be the $1 million question here. And the more evidence they have against the underling, the more that underling is going to break. Because that underling is not going to do 20 years with Donald Trump. Because guess what? Donald Trump ain't sending no JPEGs. He ain't taking care of your family. He ain't taking care of their family when they go to prison. I guarantee you all these things. So, and they're politicians. They're lawmakers. They're not criminals. They're opportunists. There's a difference between a criminal and an opportunist. I had this discussion the other day. Those people that took the PPP loans and went aboard Bentleys, they were opportunists. The people that took the PP loans and went and bought some stuff and resold and that sold or whatever, that loaned it or kind of hid the money, those was criminals. Majority of the PPP loan people are opportunists. They're not criminals. Majority of lawmakers and politicians are opportunists. They're not criminals, meaning they are not built for jail. You understand what I'm saying? So these are the things that we have to be careful of. These are things we have to look at. These are things we have to pay attention to. You know, Georgia has a timeline from November 3rd to January 6th, a detailed timeline for covering the better parts of 2 months, a little over 2 months actually. 2 months or 3 days, right? Of events involving the election process. But like I said, all these things go together. There's things we got to be cautious of. There's things that sometimes we can't jump the gun. Sometimes we got to sit back. When it happens, we got to look back and say, yo, that's crazy. And then when it happens, right, as it plays out, more information is revealed. Now, only time going to tell, right? Time going to tell the degree of justification or not. Today is not going to tell that. Only thing we're hearing is rhetoric from both sides. Somewhere around the corner, somewhere, it ain't even in the middle, I don't think. I think the truth is somewhere over there. Like, this one of them, only truly God knows the truth on this one. Right? But, like I said, it's hard for me to feel sympathy, empathy, or anything like that involving this because I watched this play out. We watched this play out. We watched the level of arrogance, the level of just outright un-American, right? Everything they say America stand for. This was about the most un-American event that we've seen. If what LeBron James said about Brittany Griner should never come back to America because of what they're failing to do for while the response for freeing her. If that was deemed as un-American with Brittany Griner still being over there in jail, then this is on a whole nother scale. This ain't even close. But, like I said, I'm going to put I appreciate your time, man. I appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Please like the video. You click on it, just hit like. Even if you don't leave a comment, just at least hit like for me. But like I said, the URL to the Don Miller Show or the Don Miller Podcast is going to be in the description box. Don is a guy that I met who he really pushed me to keep doing this, to keep speaking, to keep making videos, and he believes firmly that, you know, I have a lot to offer in this arena, amongst other people. But the reason why I'm on his show is for that reason. So I want to highlight that. I want to highlight him. Salute him, you know what I mean, because I told me he's doing something that he don't have to do, but he told me yes he does, and the reason why is the same principles that I'm built with as well, right? So I appreciate that. But I definitely have more stuff to talk about. I'm trying to find a balance between doing that and doing this. But always stay in touch, man. Stay in tune with me. I appreciate your time always. See y'all on the next one.